Hey guys, welcome back. This is episode 4 of New York and Beyond with me, Christina Kremidas, and in this episode, we are talking all about organization. So stay tuned, we're covering everything here. Welcome back, guys, and thank you for being here for another episode of New York and Beyond. This series strives to help us all live our fullest lives by putting us directly in touch with experts in various industries to gain valuable knowledge and life lessons so we can all reach our full potential. This episode, we are talking all about organization. Our guest today is Natalie Ron. She is the founder of Swoon Spaces, and she believes that when you are able to declutter and clear your space, you're actually liberating your mind and you're enabling yourself to function at a higher level. Clutter that forms around us on a daily basis is not necessarily just because we have too many things. It's really a state of mind, and things tend to accumulate because of the meaning that we give to them. So I'm really excited to bring Natalie to you guys so that we can understand how to free ourselves from this. Really quickly, before I bring in Natalie, I did want to remind you guys to please like and subscribe. This helps me so much. It helps me create more videos like this and bring them to you guys. So if you're listening on the podcast, please subscribe and leave me a positive review. And if you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like this video before you leave and also subscribe and leave a comment. Also, I always remind you guys to make sure that you're following me on Instagram. That's where you'll get a glimpse into my day-to-day. And I also run giveaways every single week. So you definitely don't want to miss that. My handle is Christina.Kremidas. So be sure to follow me over there. And all of my contact information is always in the descriptions, whether it's in the podcast or the YouTube. So if you scroll down, you'll get my email address, my website, and all the ways that you can contact me. So with that said, let's talk to Natalie. Hi, Natalie.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're so excited to hear everything that you have in store for us. I'll give you the opportunity first, really quickly, to tell us a little bit about you, your mission, and exactly what you do.
Yeah, perfect. So my name's Natalie, and I'm a professional organizer based in New York City and LA. We often help our clients declutter, organize their spaces by organizing product, and we also do move management. And so our mission is really to help our clients find that calm throughout the chaos, especially in New York City. It's so chaotic. There are things, everyone's rushing around, and sometimes it's hard to get your immediate home situation nice and organized. And that's really important for, just being more productive and just feeling, at peace at home. And so we try to get our clients from chaos to calm.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I know that I sometimes experience chaos, like probably more often than I would like to. I feel like no matter how hard sometimes I try, everything can be perfectly arranged, and then like the next day somehow it looks like I'm a total mess. So I am so excited to hear, all the tips and almost like the mental aspect too that is behind why we do the things that we do that cause our spaces to look this way. So one of the biggest questions that I think everyone in our audience has, especially coming from New York, is the fact that we're operating with such a limited amount of space. Even a minimalist can find themselves getting cluttered. Can you whet our audience's appetite with one of your most valued tips for how we can overcome this when space really is our biggest issue?
Yes. Just a little bit of background about me. I am a native New Yorker. So New Yorkers especially have this very unique living situation. A lot of the buildings are, 100 or 200 years old. They weren't built for our lifestyles now. So there's a lot of storage inefficiencies. And so I have, at least 20 years of experience at this point living in this type of environment. And I have 4 tips for you guys. So number 1 is as soon as you move into a space, you want to make sure that that space reflects your lifestyle and the items that you have. So if you have a huge closet, maybe don't look at an apartment that has no, closet space, or if you have a lot of sports equipment, just have those things in mind, even when you're looking at apartments in general. And then prioritize what you're doing every day in your daily life, and also what is what's important right now. So while most places don't have a lot of storage space, you can also think, okay, right now it's winter time. So I need, my bulkier things, and those things can come out and be in my closet, and just, you can put away your seasonal, summer clothing, summer sports equipment, travel things. You can put those away somewhere. And so that kind of brings me to tip number 3 is make sure you're using your vertical space, because oftentimes we have walls, or we have under the bed, or we have under the couch, and those places are really valuable in New York City. And while it might not be, like a top of mind space to use, you have to in New York City, especially. So, using underbed storage, or getting one of those beds that lift up, and you can put, tons of stuff, out of season clothing and stuff in there. Using under the couch, using those, very high shelves in your closets. Those can be really useful for out of season stuff. So just being really creative about behind the door. That's a huge thing that no one really thinks about. So just, keeping in mind where those opportunities are, and then maximizing those. So the 4th one is actually be really strategic about the furniture that you're buying. Sometimes, obviously, to be budget friendly, you might go from one apartment to the next with the same furniture that you had in your old place. But when you are buying furniture, make sure that it has storage space, whether it means extra drawers, a console that has some cabinets, and using that vertical space. So maybe instead of a small console, do like a full floor to ceiling, entertainment system. And that way you have so much more like built-in storage or opportunities to put things away. And with that said, you also want to make sure that your storage is enclosed, because shelving is nice, but usually that's meant for decor and maybe some pretty baskets. But you want to make sure that you'll be able to close that space. So if, guests are coming, you can just kind of throw things in and hide it. Obviously, we want that to be as organized as possible, but realistically, you just don't want to see it all. So that's the 4.
Thank you so much. Thank you I asked for 1 and you gave us 4. So thank you. You're already spoiling us. And in those insights that you gave, I feel like really the prioritization is so important too. Like really, what's the prioritization level of all of the items that you have, and going off of it that way is such a good point that you made. And especially in New York City, I totally agree with you. Utilizing floor to ceiling space as well as we can. Seeing a lot as being a real estate agent, which I am, seeing so many apartments in New York City, people get so creative with where they put cubbies and shelves and drawers, and it's such a good point. And the buying furniture as well with storage inside. Sometimes I feel like I resist doing that because I don't think sometimes I don't think those pieces look as nice, but you're definitely right. Like we have to kind of swallow our pride and get that functional furniture.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, we live in a time where there are furniture options at all price points and all design, creative, visual appeals. So it might require a little bit extra research, but it's definitely worth it, because you don't want to move into a space and have just enough space to store what you have. You want to be able to grow into it too. So even if it seems counterintuitive, you definitely want to have that extra space just in general.
True, makes so much sense. So I read a little bit into your early life, and I know that you've mentioned that you did experience growing up in a bit of a cluttered environment. And I feel like that is something that so many of us can relate to. And I think that sometimes we kind of think that if that's what we know and if that's what we saw around us when we were younger, that's the way we're going to be when we have our own apartments as adults as well. So can you give us any insight into how you were able to break those patterns and not fall into those same footsteps and instead be totally the opposite almost?
Sure, yeah. So as you mentioned, I did grow up in a very chaotic and cluttered environment. And to be honest, I really think that was kind of a boot camp for me, because I was constantly struggling to create my, my own space. I didn't have my own room for a really long time. So as soon as I went to college, I was like, okay, this is my space. How do I make it organized? Because I had been yearning for it for so long. So I wouldn't say that that's, everyone feels like that. Maybe you also feel like, growing up in that type of environment, you weren't taught how to be tidy. And I've spoken to a lot of people who have that same experience where they're like, I just have no idea where to start and it's so overwhelming. And that's okay too. I think when you grow up in that type of environment, I think the best thing to do is create an intention for yourself to be different. And even if that means, reaching out to people that that are more organized, or even us, like we're very open to giving tips. And again, that's my personal experience. So I have, that's in my heart to help other people in that situation. But I think you have to always make that intention to not revert back to that, even if you're self-aware enough to realize that is kind of in your nature. And then I think also, again, we're lucky to live in an age where you can just Google things and you can Google tips, and there are so many businesses out there that help with this. So don't be afraid and ask for help, or, reach out to people who you feel a connection to help you in this way. But I think it does take some practice. So if it doesn't come naturally to you, definitely, make an intentional effort to, do little things every day to make your life a little bit better, or make it a little bit more easy to maintain for you.
Thank you so much. I think that explanation really means a lot. It's almost like putting your mind to it and making it your mission.
Yeah, and I think I personally sometimes worry that I'm going to get there too, which sounds very strange, but with life, things get really hectic. I know, like, I don't have kids right now, but I do have a business that's kind of my baby, and then things kind of fall to the wayside. I can't even imagine when I have kids and I'm, picking up after them and cooking for them, and then also having to run my business. So also just give yourself a little bit of grace, but be real and just, think, okay, is this really within my wheelhouse? Can I really do this for myself? And if I can't, then reach out to professionals. That's kind of why we exist in the first place. A lot of our clients are busy moms, busy entrepreneurs, living in New York. No one has time for anything but, getting ahead in their career and just sustaining themselves. So I think it's really important to just ask for help and enlist a professional when and if you can.
That's such a good point, and I'm so glad, especially for myself, but as well for the entire audience, to know that we have Natalie now. So, and is it okay if I and the audience really honestly do use you as a resource, reach out to you for help?
Oh my God, of course. It's one of the, so I didn't start this business, as a professional right out of college. I didn't grow up being a professional organizer. It was just a passion of mine. And it's because I know the value behind being organized and having a tidy space. I just, you feel more focused, you can be more productive. Visual clutter alone is so overwhelming for your brain. You have to kind of work 10 times more to look past the clutter, to just focus on what you're trying to do, whether, whatever that is. It's not even just work. It could be like focusing on reading or, taking care of your kids. It really just takes a lot more energy from your brain to work through that. So anyway, with my personal experience, I want to help all of you. And that's why I started my business in the first place.
Thank you so much, Natalie. You're literally a lifesaver. So what I'm going to do as well, just so the audience knows, I will link all of your contact information in the description here so that they can reach out to you directly, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm here for you guys.
So when it comes to myself, and I feel like this will probably resonate with everyone as kind of like the main reasons why I think that clutter tends to accumulate. And I feel like there are three kind of main reasons why that might happen, at least for me. So I noticed that maybe there's sentimental and emotional attachment to something that doesn't serve a daily purpose. So where does it go? And what do we do with it? And that's one thing I noticed. The other thing is things that we use every single day. It's like, am I gonna go put it away, take the effort to put it away when I'm gonna take the effort to take it out again tomorrow morning? So there's those little daily things that sit around. And then the last thing I noticed that I definitely struggle with, especially now that I've come into the age of 30 and I've seen things and styles come back from the 90s. And I'm like, if I get rid of this now, am I going to hate myself for throwing it away next week? So what are the main reason why you tend to notice that people are creating clutter in their homes? Is it mostly a mindset?
Okay, so you actually hit on all three things. So I'm gonna address them all, and it was very organized the way that you presented that. But the first thing is definitely there are often emotional attachments, and I think those emotional attachments usually get exacerbated by some type of trauma. And a trauma could be like a breakup or, a divorce or, obviously loss of someone that you love, but it could also be like losing your job or like, moving or just really big life changes, having a baby. There's a lot of postpartum depression with having a baby, and you think that's a really happy time, and it is, but there's still some trauma there. So a lot of things that we hold on to hold a lot of meaning, and sometimes it goes to the point that it's a little irrational, only because, again, in New York City, you're in this finite space. And so we find it that it's healthiest to be able to live within the means of your space. And if that means having less clothes or having less toys for your baby, or having or going to grocery shop more often because you just don't have a huge pantry, those are lifestyle habits that you should get into and kind of respect, because it's better to put that effort into going to the store more often, or that type of thing, rather than living in an overwhelming place. So you kind of have to respect the fact that your home should be a sanctuary. I know it sounds kind of corny, but it really is. And you have to set those limits for yourself. But with that said, emotional attachments are real, and I think that's really just sometimes you might need to, talk to someone about those things, but I think you just, again, have to really check in with yourself and think, okay, do I really need to keep this? If you can take a photo of it, great. Take a photo, donate it to someone who can actually use it. If you're not really using it regularly anymore, try to find ways to give meaning to the things that you're holding on to that might not really have use to you anymore. And so, donate or give it to somebody else, and just try to work through that a little bit more, but try to be realistic about your space. Now, you also mentioned clothing. And so what I find often, especially with women, but sometimes men as well, is they have clothing from like 5 to 10 years ago when they were in high school. I understand that you mentioned fashion, does tend to recycle kind of, which is true, but at the end of the day, you have to be real about when that style is really going to come back, or like, are you wearing it now? Because it might not ever come back, and you might not even be that size anymore, because we change as we grow. And so just asking yourself those questions. Does it fit? When was the last time it fit? Is it worth keeping 10 to 15 years until it comes back? Or should I just get a new one or a new version of this when it does come back again? The other thing when it comes to clothing is, especially with women, it does kind of link back to the trauma or like feelings of loss, because a lot of women hold on to clothing because they want to get back to a certain weight or size. And that can be really detrimental to your space, because it might not be realistic that you might get back to that. And so it's a practice of kind of accepting where you are now and building for a better you now and who you are, because that clothing that you're keeping from 5 to 10 years ago isn't really reflective of who you are anymore. And then the last part you mentioned was the daily stuff, right? So the daily stuff, I totally get not wanting to put something away and then taking it out. And sometimes that's fine. Like sometimes, let's say in a kitchen, if you don't have a lot of counter space, but you drink coffee all the time, have a little coffee station for yourself, or keep things out as a reminder that you need to do them. I do that all the time. I have a pile of things that I'm like, okay, it's a reminder that I have to do these things. But sometimes creating habits to put things away makes that happen quicker. So like, it's not really a thought anymore. You just use it, put it away, and that's it. It's not a struggle. So as long as you can build a habit of doing that, it shouldn't be as hard as it seems like it would be initially.
Amazing. Such good points. I do really agree with what you said about the clothing too, because though we know that it's going to come back, it always comes back a little different. Like are you really going to wear that exact same item, and are you going to be the exact same size? Those are such good points, honestly.
Yeah, those are good questions to ask when you're ready to go through your things. And that alone is a big process, just decluttering your space. As we live, we accumulate, and that's really a natural thing. But, you know, if you have 5 minutes, just go through your closet really quickly and just point out, okay, I haven't worn that in a while. I don't really like how that looks. For some reason, I'm not wearing it. It's pretty, but I'm not gravitating towards it, or I'm not choosing it. So maybe I should just give it to somebody else or resell it to someone who would appreciate it more.
Sometimes I feel genuine guilt with respect to like feeling like I didn't utilize something enough and now I'm already ready to give it away, or even there may even honestly be tags on it still. And I'm like, what kind of a person am I? Like, I'm just disregarding this item. So can you help me and the audience maybe rationalize through that guilt that we might feel when it comes to, you know, feeling like we do just want to get rid of something?
Yeah, so guilt comes in two forms. One is you got a gift that is from somebody and you just feel guilty for getting rid of it or throwing it out. I have that guilt with my mom a lot. She checks in on me about if I still have a gift or something, or like, where's that thing I got you 3 years ago? And so I struggle with that too, but I think you have to put yourself first. And you have to, again, respect the rules of your home, right? So your home is a sanctuary. You have to choose intentionally what you keep and what you use. And if whatever you have that you feel guilty about is really not serving you, and it's already also making you feel bad about yourself, then you almost have more permission to let it go or give it to someone who, again, might appreciate it more. And then with clothes, that kind of is twofold, because I think that also teaches you maybe you should think a little bit more or kind of ruminate in the decision to buy things in the beginning. But if you land in the situation where you have a few pieces that you're just like, wow, I've never touched this, forgive yourself. Again, like, it's not a big deal. It might be a lot of money that you've spent, but it's costing you a lot more to keep in the end. So just remember that you can resell it. There's so many, sites online, Poshmark, ThreadUp, so many places where you can resell and you can get some of that money back, or you can just donate. And there are a lot of options. When it comes to donate, you can get tax reimbursement too. So there are benefits to giving away as well.
Very, 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 very true. I love all of those points. And it's the mindset. You need to place that value. From what I'm hearing from you, you really do need to place that value on how happy you feel when you don't have the excess and the clutter and the things that you don't necessarily love, but you feel guilty getting rid of. So do you feel like when we rip that Band-Aid, like let's say someone who's listening doesn't often get the courage to purge and get rid of stuff that is no longer bringing them happiness, do you feel that if you, with a little encouragement to do it and rip the Band-Aid, do you find that overall people tend to be happier after doing that?
Yeah, so 9 out of 10 times our clients don't even remember what they gave away or what they donated. They're just so happy to have that extra space and that organization that it's like it never existed in the first place. And I mean, there might be that one person every once in a while who's like, I should have kept it. But you didn't really lose that much by getting rid of it in the first place, and you gained so much more. So just, keeping that mindset of my space should be priority. And you kind of have to do what it takes to keep that space in check. Once you have that, you practice that, and it's like a muscle. You warm up to that mentality, and or it's like meditation or yoga or working out. You just build up to it, and then eventually it's a no-brainer. You don't feel bad about it anymore. You might declutter more often because it feels so good. So yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it.
Awesome. I think that's very encouraging, especially to people who are on the fence. Definitely good to know to just remember that the end feeling really is great. So, you can get the courage to do it, to rip the Band-Aid.
Yeah, and I think the main struggle, that's one of the main struggles. The second struggle is taking the time to really do it. And that's kind of where our business comes in, because again, a lot of New Yorkers especially are so busy. They might have that project of decluttering their closet or their kitchen in the back of their mind, but it's not a priority. And so the quicker you get it handled, whether it's by yourself or if you feel like you need to call reinforcements like us, we get it done in a day, depending on your project. And then you have a beautifully organized space and you can just move on with your life. It's not this project in the back of your head. So it's, again, it's just kind of making that decision of, okay, I want this to change. And if I can't do it myself, or my emotions are holding me back, or there's something holding me back, then just call us and maybe we can help you, navigate that somehow.
I love that so much, and it's so true. I'm definitely going to be calling you, because it's true though, it's so true. Part of not wanting to embark on the project is because it's not fun. It's really often really not fun, and I dread having to go through my closets, take everything out, sift through everything. Like, honestly, aside from the fact that it's a chore to me, I feel like it's boring. So I'll find myself like calling my sister or calling my mother and being like, hey, I'm doing this day-long chore, just sit on the phone with me the entire time, because I'm just miserable doing it. So I love that, the idea that you can, you're a professional, you can literally come help me, we can hang out for the day and get something huge accomplished. I just feel like it makes it feel like so much less of a struggle.
Yeah, it takes less time. I think that's a huge benefit. But we also, I started this business because I love doing it. So hanging out with me or hanging out with, girls on my team, it's like having a friend with you, except it's not a mom or a sister who might, throw judgment at you, or, it'll be fun, but then they get tired. We push through until the end, but we're still friends, basically. So it's a good environment to be in, and then you get it done, and then you feel good and you can move on with your life, like I said before.
So now, on that note of what it would be like to, to have a professional come in, to have you guys come in and help, you're in a people-based business, as am I. As a real estate agent, the end goal is always usually pretty much the same. The process is the same, but the way that you get to it is different with every single person that you work with. So how do you go about identifying what a potential client's actual need is? Like, why is this the situation to begin with? And then identifying a solution that's actually going to help them long term.
Yep. So like you said, every person is completely different. Every project is completely different, because every space that they live in is completely different. And so we don't ever apply like a one size fits all kind of rule. And so that does create more of an onboarding, longer conversation in the beginning, just to understand what your life is like, what your family's like, what your space is like, what your pain points are. And so we have two kind of phases that we handle with Swoon spaces. And the first is a consultation conversation. And that's where we ask, where do you live? Do you rent? Do you own? That just tells us, how much are you really willing to invest in this place? We ask, what your family is like, how you live. And then when we first start on site with our clients, we do a purge. So we go through every single item, like we don't leave one item left unturned. And we ask, do you want to keep this? Yes. Why? No. Why? Do you want to donate this? And so when we ask questions and we probe, we get a lot of information from you during that conversation. And it'll tell us, let's say we're in your closet, it'll tell us what categories of clothing you wear often. What do you gravitate towards more? How do you wake up and get ready? Do you brush your teeth? Do you do your hair? And so that basically outlines what we should prioritize in your space and how we should build it out. So we learn a lot about our clients in the first couple of hours of knowing them. And that way we can truly create a system that speaks to and makes their lives easier based on their specific lifestyle and their family and their home. So it's a lot of conversation, first on the phone and then again in person when we're decluttering. And then once we have enough information, we feel like we can truly create a customized space for you.
Amazing. I love that. It's not like you're just having someone come in and like throw out all your stuff. Like it's definitely, it's a personal, it really is. It's a personal experience. So I love that so much. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
When it comes to, at least me personally, I don't find myself to be a neat person. I love how a beautifully decorated and clean space looks and feels. So I strive for that in my own home, but it's not possible unless I literally make it a priority every single day. And again, like I mentioned earlier, I do find that things get messy really quickly. Like if I'm not on top of it for a split second, it's a mess. So do you have any advice for someone like me?
Yes. So I totally understand. I think some of the habits that I have that help me are just, cleaning up as I go throughout the day, but I'm not everybody. And so I totally understand not everyone has the time for that. Again, I don't have kids, so I can't even imagine that being a mom and having to pick up toys constantly. So number one, I would say try, instead of like, let's say you might designate a day to clean up once a week. I think that's too much time to leave things up and out. So I would say instead, try to either create a habit or an intention to, set an alarm for like 5 to 10 minutes. And that's just like a quick, scan throughout your apartment or scan throughout your bedroom and just put things away. That way, at least the visual clutter around isn't going to affect you so much every day. And then you can go to sleep that night and feel like, okay, I accomplished something and I can wake up into a neat environment. I think that's probably the best like hack or trick, because 5 minutes seems like it's not a lot, but you can actually get a lot done. And if you set your alarm, you just get started. And if you're in the zone and you do a little bit more, great. And if not, you can be like, great, done. I'm done for the day and I'll just do the rest tomorrow.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. So something that I notice is I feel like there are two different ways that you can kind of go about neatening up. And what I've run into often is, and my husband is this way. So my husband, he's very neat. He's very, very neat, and he prioritizes his space. Like he will make sure that his space is perfect, and he values that. But I noticed that I make fun of him because I call what he does like cosmetic fixes. So like if I see like a stack of mail or like something that needs to be addressed, like I need to look at it, I need to decide what's staying, what's going. It feels like a big project to me, so I'll put it off and the stack will sit there like in a main part of the apartment that's bothering everyone. He'll just take it full force, but he's not like doing the analyzing that's needed, but he'll like stack it differently or put it in a different spot to make the part of the home that we care about not look messy, but it's like sitting in the corner somewhere. So like, do you find that those cosmetic fixes, like, are they beneficial at all just for our day-to-day happiness, or should we like be addressing every single thing full on, like as we know it needs to happen?
Yes. So as a professional organizer, I would say those cosmetic fixes are just not enough. But a little bit about me, I'm a Libra, so I understand, like, I'm very realistic about life and I'm very balanced about it. So I can understand that what your husband's doing, like creating a neater pile so that it's not irritating you on a day-to-day. And then when you have the energy or you see that it's there and you have a minute, you'll go through it. I think with mail especially, that's something that you really need to tackle before it even gets into your apartment. Like, don't bring junk mail into your house. Like, if you see a catalog that you've never cared about or didn't even sign up for, just put it immediately in a recycling bin somewhere, and literally don't let it get into your house if you can help it, or just throw it out as soon as you get in from getting the mail. I think it can be really hard to manage that sort of thing, because especially if you get a lot, it does pile up quickly. But mail especially, it's kind of its own unique thing. I feel like you kind of have to deal with it immediately, and that way it just doesn't become a problem. If you haven't, then designate some time to go through it, and then try to keep up with the habit of not bringing all of it into your apartment if you can help it. But I do think that there are benefits to the cosmetic, shuffling around, as long as it looks better, then like no harm done. But once it starts getting, a little out of control, then maybe you should check in on that cosmetic pile like a little bit more often or something like that. Again, like I'm more about the balance, so I don't want to say don't do that, like no, but but do what's best for you. But yeah, it would be nice if you could just handle it quick, like faster.
Such a good point. I mean, yeah, it's such a good point that you mentioned that too. Like, don't even bring the junk mail inside. Like, John will throw out my husband will literally throw out everything in the mailroom that he doesn't want. That's junk. Like, and I'm always like, oh, can we just get into the apartment? Like, throw it out in there. But like, he has to get rid of it. Like, if we get a package, he'll literally open the package on the elevator and put the box into the garbage room on the way into the apartment. And it's like, I don't really like think about it all that much, but it sounds like that's something I need to be doing.
Yes, I if you can get into the habit of doing that, it's the best thing for the maintenance of your home in general. Even like I just moved, and now I'm in a bigger space where I actually go to Costco more often. In New York, I never, like in New York City, in my past apartment, I didn't go to Costco, so I didn't buy in bulk. I would just go to the grocery store, every couple of days and re-up. But now I go to Costco. But even still, once I bring all of that extra food or drinks, or we get Gatorade a lot, so we just have like lots of bottles, instead of putting it away as it is packed and just taking it out whenever I'm ready to use it, I get rid of all of the boxes immediately. I take away all of the packaging immediately and just get it out of the house, because packaging is a huge source of clutter. And if you can get rid of it immediately once you come into your home, it could even be like makeup packaging, skincare packaging, like shopping packaging, all of that really doesn't need to be, you don't need to keep it. So unbox and just get rid of it. That's a huge habit that's really helpful, just to keep clutter out of your home.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It really is. It's really so important. I'm gonna make it much more of a priority. I feel like everyone in the audience can relate. I think that that's something that we probably all struggle with. Like, why bring a box into the apartment if it just has to go back out? Like, it makes sense when you think about it. It's just doing it in the moment.
Yeah. That's something that I do naturally. But actually, to your point about couples, that's something that at Swoon Spaces we handle a lot. A lot of our clients call us because their issue isn't, it's clutter and it's disorganization, but it's often there's one partner that's more organized than the other. And so it's a lot. So while we help you declutter and help you maximize your space and create systems for you both to be living in the same space and you have a home for everything, we do that. But what we also do is kind of more therapeutic, because we're more like counselors in a sense sometimes, because there can be that butting of heads where one is really neat and organized, and they're like, why can't you just do this? It's so easy. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why you don't think this way. And then the other person is just like, I don't think this way. Like, it's not a big deal or whatever. And so we often kind of play devil's advocate and lead them into a better way of living together. But that's especially in New York, again, like the spaces are so small that you like need designated places for things, and then everyone kind of needs to be on board.
It's really so true. I feel like you're right. It's in you. It's almost like in you or it's not, but it's reassuring to hear that we can learn and we can take these new habits and, do them over and over until they really are a habit.
Mm-hmm. There are two different types of clients that we have, or people that call us, and there's the one where, similar to what you're mentioning now, they're the people who are like, I have no idea how to organize myself. I try, I don't really get it, can you come in and build systems for me to make it easier for me to maintain? And so that's really great, because then we build those systems and it really is just like, you put it back, and that's all it is. But then we do also have clients who are really type A, actually, and they could probably do the organization themselves, but they don't have the time, or they have a family, or they're too busy with their careers or traveling around. And so they call us because they're like, I know what I want for the most part, or at least I think I know what I want, but I just don't have the time to do this. So it's interesting because while we offer similar services to both, people are calling us for different reasons.
Makes a lot of sense. So true.
Yeah.
And for some reason, while you were describing that, I thought about like how beautiful it looks when you do have like such an organized, like, you know, you don't have to be a hoarder to neaten up and organize, you know? And I thought about your Instagram feed. I was picturing your Instagram feed as you were describing this. And because at least what you feature on your feed, like these look like people who are like put together. It's not, you don't need to be the hoarder to start this. Sure. And it does look, guys in the audience, if you haven't yet, I definitely urge you to check out Natalie's Instagram feed. I've got it linked in the description, because honestly, it is such goals. Just looking at that makes me want to revamp.
Yeah, thank you. And I think what we love to do the most is we love transforming spaces. And like you said, you don't need to be what's called a hoarder to call us. It's really about creating functionality in your space. And especially in New York, it's just really hard to do that because you just don't have the right tools that you walk into in a new apartment. It's not built for you. So we step in and help you build it out to make your life easier and to maintain it more easily.
Okay, before we move on, we mentioned the day-to-day things and how important it is to put stuff away every day as we go. But there are some things that I notice are just always tossed about my desk or in the corner of the kitchen countertop space. And I'm wondering if you have a hack for us. It's the keys, the wallets, the mask now, the hand sanitizer, the change, like, what do we do with those things that we genuinely do use multiple times a day? Do you have a hack for us that is something better than just tossing it onto our workspace or our kitchen counter?
Yes. Nowadays, it's really important to have a drop zone of some sort. And I know you mentioned that maybe some of this does land on your kitchen counter. Sometimes that's okay, but anywhere that there's a space near your entryway, so the front door, where you can, maybe it's like a little console table or like a side table, or preferably some type of console table with a couple of drawers or something. And if you don't have that, maybe have a few shelves near the front door, or a couple of hooks for your keys. I think it's really important to have a place to put your stuff down as soon as you come in, or take your stuff out as soon as you're leaving. And there's no better place to do that than near your front door. So, having a space for your masks, maybe in a drawer, or having a designated space for your change. I think honestly, having a drawer situation is ideal, but again, in New York, you might not have space for that. So just having a little drop table to put some of that stuff is really important. And then if you don't have space for that, then maybe installing something that has a few hooks for your mask, your keys, maybe a little ledge for your wallet, something like that, so that you can visually see it and you know it's there and you always take it before you leave.
So true. In our apartment, we installed like a little cube shelf floating system on the entryway wall. So it's got some hooks hanging from below it. It has a couple of like cube type shelves where we can put some essentials. And something that helped me was John decorated it. So he like made it look nice, like out of a magazine. Like he stacked like a couple of cube books in one cube and a candle with like a little air plant in another cube, and it kind of makes you resist just filling the whole thing with clutter. Then of course like the jackets accumulate on the hooks and things like that, but I definitely agree with you that having that entryway spot is so helpful.
Yeah, and I think like right here in my apartment, I have a drawer. So I don't have a console table yet. We just moved, so we didn't really outfit our whole apartment with furniture yet. But we have in our kitchen, we have one drawer where it could be considered a junk drawer, but it's organized. So we have our masks, we have Purell because of COVID now. We have, our keys, our change. And so in that one drawer, you can get these drawer organizers.
I love that. We will link to the drawer organizer in the description. I think everyone's going to want that. I want that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Perfect, yeah.
So another entryway issue, the shoes. We have a shoe problem in my apartment. So I think both myself and my husband have more than the average number of shoes. Overrun by shoes. Floor to ceiling in the closet is shoes. And then in the entryway, we tend to take our shoes off when we come inside, and that shoe of the day just sits in the entryway. Do you have a shoe solution for us?
I think having a shoe rack near the door makes sense. I think that's probably what you have. And then keeping the shoes that you wear regularly there. So, flip-flops during the summer or sandals, anything that's very often worn that you'll put on and off every day. And then if, let's say, we're not doing this now, but like if you're going to a party and you have heels, or your husband went to work and it's his work shoes, it's fine to take them off there, but don't leave them there unless they're your everyday. So if it's his work shoes, then you can leave them there because he'll have to put those on, tomorrow, I guess. But especially with heels and just more event shoes, those should be taken off at the door, but just put away as soon as possible. Or as soon as, if you leave them there, as soon as you see them again later on that night, just bring them into your room. You don't want that to be a source of clutter. The other thing is if you have a coat closet near your door, your front door, then maybe stack a few shoe racks in there, or have a behind the door, depending on what kind of door it is, but a behind the door shoe solution. And that way, it's close enough to the front door, but you can put them away and they're not visual.
Makes sense. So it's okay to keep your pair of shoes that you wear every day out in the entryway?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like John is literally going to come out and be like, told you so, because he insists, he wants his go-to slides and his everyday pair of shoes out. And this is the thing, I don't know if anyone relates. I really think that our audience is going to relate to this, but if you have a mentality like you do, Natalie, and if you understand the ins and the outs of being an organized person, you can have a shoe out and it's okay. But in my position, I'm everything's perfect. If one thing gets out of place, everything's gonna be over and it's gonna be a mess. So I will fight with him and be put your shoes away, just put them away, because in my head it's if one thing's out of place, the whole place is a mess.
I totally get that, and I can feel like that at times too. I think when it comes to organizing and keeping your space tidy, you have to, one, especially if you have a partner, you have to come to an agreement with them. What is your peak, beautifully tidied space? And in your case, you might have to compromise a little bit, because realistically, it is okay, at least in my opinion, to have a couple of shoes in the front, but at least they're neat. And so, come to that compromise so that in your head you can say, okay, now this is what a tidy space looks like. And that includes a couple of shoes up there, but it's neat. But everything else is put away. And I'm okay with that. And then that way it just kind of, again, it changes your mindset a little bit, and then you can just breathe easy when you see a couple of shoes there. But at least it's not 20 pairs of shoes and they're all over the place, because that happens too, and that's not okay.
Right.
Right. But yeah, I think especially with having a partner, there's definitely a lot more conversation that needs to happen, and agreements of where things go or where they are put away, and just a lot more communication around organization and systems.
Makes sense. It's a learning process. It really is.
It really is. And it's a lot of psychology, actually. I mean, I think the entire idea of organization and tidiness in your home, it really affects your mindset. It affects your self-worth. It affects how you perform every day. It affects how productive you are every day. And this is something that I talk a lot about with our clients, but for those of you guys out there who are struggling with a lot of clutter, I think sometimes we get so caught up in our lives and are so busy that we don't think about it. But you probably aren't, bringing people home to visit you if your house is cluttered, or you're probably not feeling that good about yourself or confident, because your space really reflects how you are. And I know, again, that sounds a little cheesy, but if your space is really tidy and like on point, then you feel really good about yourself, and you feel good about putting that effort into yourself and making you look better and you feel better. So it is really important to invest in that.
So true. Such a good point. And I honestly do think that, like, before the pandemic, I was tidying up regularly because someone would be coming over at any one given time.
Exactly.
No one's been over in such a long time. So you like look around and you're like, oh my God, like what happened here?
Yeah. And that's something that I, growing up, I didn't have. We didn't have anybody visit our home. Because I guess there was some shame involved, and so as a grown up, I realized how much that affected me. And I think anyone who's out there with kids who feels like, if you as a parent feel like you're kind of struggling with clutter, imagine what your child is feeling and what their space is telling them they should feel about themselves. Because it only took me up until recently, when I had my own space, that I realized I'm not inviting people over that much. And it's not because I'm ashamed of my place. It's just I grew up in an environment where, there was some shame, and I just kind of got used to not inviting people over. So I think that has a huge psychological effect on kids, but just as adults too. You want your space to be nice so that you can bring people over and be social, especially now with the pandemic. We're all like starving for that.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us and for opening up on that. I feel like it resonates with so many of us, and it's just such a testament to what we are capable of doing and how we can overcome circumstances.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I started Swoon Spaces to help others, and just by helping others and being in others' space, because of course, when you are your own person, you're only really familiar with your own space or the space that you grew up in. Then you start learning about how other people live, and it opens you up to possibilities. It opens up to help yourself question things about you and what your priorities should be. So, my goal is always to help you guys and have those conversations so that you can just live better lives.
So true. We thank you for that. So sometimes though, I do feel like the organization solutions, like all the cubes, the drawers, the shelves, the racks, sometimes I feel like those things can enable me to save more things than I should, because I feel like I found a spot for them instead of simply just throwing them away. So how do you go about knowing when you're working with a new client or in your own space, whether the issue is a problem like it needs to be thrown away, or whether the problem is you need a better storage solution?
Normally when clients call us, part of the consultation process is for us to take a look at the space, whether that's virtually via a video and some photos or in person. And we can usually tell even if there are storage spaces that are, even if a client has had a professional organizer come in before. Actually, this happens a lot, where there was a really good system before and it worked for a while, and then after a few years, it just got filled up. And in those cases, it's pretty obvious. We just need to help you do a solid declutter. And that's where we go into every nook and cranny and really ask ourselves the hard questions about whether it makes sense for you to keep it or not. And then sometimes clients especially try to do it yourself kind of thing, and they'll buy lots of containers and cubes and plastic boxes and things like that, thinking that they're solving the problem of everything needs a home. but it doesn't always work out that well, because when we purchase products for our clients, we take into consideration what categories need homes, how big are those categories, and this applies to any space in the home, like the kitchen or the closet. But once we designate what categories you have and how much of each you have and how big that container might need to be, or whatever that container needs to function like, then we do the deep dive into research and get those very specific containers for that category. So this is like a whole world of research and sourcing that our clients just don't have the skill set for usually, and then also just don't have the time for. So that's, I think, what's really valuable about what we do is we're not solving your problems by just buying more containers and filling them. We're really trying to solve, your spatial problems. When it comes to using those containers, you just want to be really mindful. Like, is it really doing the job, or does it just like appear to be?
Home office space. Because I think that's been a huge pain point for so many people, especially, out of nowhere, we had to create home office space in our apartments. And, sometimes even more than one person in your household within your apartment now needs a home office with privacy and with space. So do you have any recommendations for especially someone in a New York apartment who didn't have a home office space to begin with that now had to create one? Do you have any tips for us?
Yes, so especially in New York, I'm sure a lot at this point during the pandemic, everyone has some sort of work from home situation. So I'll just go over that really quickly, but you should have a table. You should have some drawers, or at least some organizers on top of your table, just the things that you might need every day. And then you should potentially use the wall space in front of you for either notes or a to-do list, or something that the wall is a huge tool for us, especially now that we're short on space. So again, going back to using your vertical space, use the wall for something, whether that means like using it for shelves. If you don't have a filing system and you need files, just put it up there, or have baskets and throw whatever you need to put away up on the wall somewhere. But I think the biggest thing right now is really just about keeping your workspace clean and clear so you can focus, so quiet if it's at all possible. I know it might not be in a lot of households. Not a lot of visual clutter. If you can face a wall instead of facing, your laundry pile, that's a win. But then also just utilizing your computer and digital files. Like I use Google Suite, and I don't have any, again, my business might be different from other people, but I don't have a lot of paper clutter. I just don't. And I try to maximize my Google Suite, my calendar, my Google Docs, my Google Excel sheets to organize myself and work. So I guess if you can do that, I think that's the best, just keeping things digital and keeping your files digital and organizing them on your desktop or in your Google situation. I think that's really valuable these days.
I totally agree with you. I feel like those are such important points. And it's funny because as a real estate agent, for me personally, I do have a lot of paper that I accumulate that I'm required to actually hold on to. Mm-hmm. So I have these needs for files, and also aside from me, it's funny because in my industry, the way we label rooms in apartments is if it's a little room, but it doesn't have a window, or it doesn't have a closet, or it doesn't meet the criteria to be a bedroom, we can call it a home office. And it's so funny because amidst the pandemic, I have a home office in my apartment. And I'm I would not work in this cave. There's no light in it. There's no window. And I'm why do we call these rooms home offices? It's so funny. Because when I take it's so true though. And when I take my clients out, they do, when they're looking for spaces that are conducive to work, they want to work where there is natural sunlight. No one wants to work in a corner. So when you mentioned what you're facing, it's so important.
It's so important. And I think also just knowing yourself and how you are productive. It's interesting that you mentioned home offices, because right now I don't have a home office at all. The way that I work is I work from like the couch or a chair or the bed, but I do need light. And actually I just found, this is a random like product, but I just found, especially if you want to stand, like, you know, now that people have standing desks, there's a product out there that you can literally suction like a platform onto your window, let's say, and then you can just like stand and work there on your computer. So like there's just really cool things out there that you can do or apply to your own space to make it work well. Like I'd rather look out the window and think than, you know, look at an empty wall or something like that. So definitely, you know, invest in those little knickknacks or whatever that, you know, might make your workspace better. If you need to have paper organization, obviously get a filing system. They have really cute colors now at the Container Store. There's just so, like, we have so much at our disposal. All you need to do is, you know, research a little bit, and I think you can really maximize your office space.
So true, so true. I feel like that's been like, it's literally been the challenge of the past 12 months at this point.
Yes, 100%. And again, I don't have kids, but I have clients that do. And especially lately, I've been working with a lot of clients to declutter and plan their space out a little bit better, because their living room is their office and their baby's playroom and the TV room and the living room and like the dining room. And so we try to figure out ways to, you know, address all of those activities in that one space if we can. So it is a challenge, but it's definitely worth putting some time into it.
Definitely worth it. It's definitely a challenge, especially in New York City. You have one room that serves every purpose. So yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's there, the challenge is there, and that's why it's good to, you know, to have this advice. This has been so incredibly valuable. So on the same note, since we talked about the home office, similarly, I'm wondering, do you have any like magic bullet solutions that you can give us, or tips that you can give us for small kitchens in the city?
For small kitchens, I would say, again, using the vertical space as much as possible. So we love using risers to kind of double the shelving space. So maybe underneath the riser, you can have plates, and then above the riser, you have cups, and then the next shelf starts and you can add stuff there. Also, stackable containers. OXO has some really good products. The Home Edit has some really good products. And also see-through containers so that you see what you have. Because I think just in general in pantries and kitchens, we forget what we have and things go bad, or you buy more things because you forgot you had what you had at home. And so being able to constantly see what you have not only saves money and saves you time, and then having stackable containers just allows you, again, to use that vertical space. Also, for really deep cabinets, having really long bins are really good, because you can label it in the front, this is pasta, and then it can be like a 2-foot bin where you use that depth, because I think those can be really hard. Things get lost in the back. So at least you can pull it out like kind of a drawer, and then you can see what you have there. So smart. It's really important to have someone who knows your inventory and has the background of a professional organizer, because we want to make your life easier. That's literally our goal. So if you can, you know, link up with us to, if you're doing a kitchen renovation, like call us for some tips or some advice, because like you said, those cabinets, I mean, it's nice to have that space, but it would be better to have drawers instead, you know, like deep drawers, so you can put your heavy pans and pots. Drawers are way better in the kitchen especially below, than cabinets. There are a lot of ways that we would, as professional organizers, design a kitchen that would be just way more functional for our clients. But sometimes we just have to make it work with, you know, Container Store items or something, or, you know, items from Amazon, because you're renting and you're not gonna invest in that. But if you are going to invest, definitely talk it all through with somebody who has a professional organizer mentality, because we really think about what you need to do or what we can do to make your life better. True. So good to know. I also feel like the spice cabinet is another like gigantic source of stress. Like every single day, like something drops and breaks. It's like a total mess. Yeah, those are actually either a bin is good for that, because at least you can pull it all out at once, drop it down, pick up what you need, use it, put it all back and put it in the bin and put it in. Or those tiered risers, so you can see everything all at once and things are just not getting lost in the back.
True. I'm gonna look on your site and see if you have like products listed for that, because I need a solution for the spices, which leads me to the point that I want to make to the audience as well. I want to mention to you guys that Natalie on her site actually has an entire page of her website where she links to useful products that are amazing for storage solutions. I was scrolling through, I have some stuff literally in my cart. So Natalie, can you tell us about like what you offer on your website, as well as I noticed you also have virtual organizing solution services. So let us know, please, what resources you've got available to our audience on your site.
Perfect. So on our site, we have our favorite products for each space. And so we have a section that's our favorite products that we like to use for maximizing your space in a closet or a kitchen or the bathroom, your pantry. And so that's a really good resource that if you feel like hiring a professional organizer might not be in your budget, you can still, scour our Instagram page and our favorite products. I think on Instagram we have a highlight of all of the products that we love using. We've taken the time over, as long as I've owned this business, to do the research and know what works. So we're not sharing just random products. We're sharing products that we love and really do transform spaces. So that's on the website. Again, like it would be nice if you could check in with a professional organizer instead of just like buying, random things. But there's some things that are pretty obvious, like they'll help immediately with any space. Virtual actually became really hot, obviously during the pandemic, but we love working in person with our clients, and we think that that's really where the major value is, because we just get it all done for you immediately and efficiently. But virtual is a service that we offer that you can have me or someone on our team at your disposal, and we can work on a space together from start to finish. And usually that includes the consultation. We get measurements of your space. We create a wish list for you, which means we'll create a list of products that you should buy for your space that are catered to the measurements of your space and your categories. And then we'll give you a full visual outline of, where to put everything, how to label everything. So it's a do-it-yourself, but we guide you through it. This is very useful in the case if, you might not be living in New York or LA where our team is right now, or if, somewhere else in the country, or if, you just either it's not in your budget to hire us for a full day or a full few days, or also if it's still COVID and you're just not trying to have people in your house. So that's a really good resource.
Amazing. Very, very good to know. When it comes to your fee, is the virtual fee different than your in-person fee?
Yeah, so our virtual fee is definitely a fraction of the in-home on-site fee. And that's just because you get less time with us. We're not there for 8 hours or 5 hours of your day. And it's really more do-it-yourself. We lead you. So we'll give you our expertise and our advice and some accountability, so that once we give you something to do, you do it and you check in with us to make sure you did it. On-site is way more full service. We handle everything for you, and you might only need to be there for a couple of hours to declutter with us, and then you're free to do whatever you want. The virtual is more, you do it yourself, but we're guiding you throughout.
Makes sense. So what is the best way? I imagine that many people from our audience are dying to get in touch with you directly. So we are linking the Instagram, and is there any other preferred ways that they should be getting in touch with you?
Yeah, so actually the Instagram for us functions more as a portfolio. And then also if you want to talk to us directly, you can DM us and interact with us. We love that, and ask us questions about things. But in order to book a consultation with us or anything that's more formal for booking us, you still have to go through our website and fill out a form. And the form is as simple, what's your name, phone number, like a way to contact you. Where do you live? Because we also offer our services in LA, and the spaces in LA are very different from the spaces in New York. So that's very, and also even in New York, like the spaces in Manhattan are different than the spaces in Queens and Brooklyn. So, or Hoboken, or, you know, and so knowing where you live gives us already some ideas of what struggles you might be dealing with in your space. And then it just asks a couple of questions about like what space you want to organize, what are some pain points, and then from there, we'll contact you and get the whole process started.
Amazing. Sounds good. So guys, feel free to reach out to Natalie. Definitely worth it for sure. I know that I'm going to be reaching out to you. I feel like it's a great time, you know, the start of a new year where we are going to be able to have friends and family over again. So I feel like it's a great time to get in order and to get spruced up. So that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on when we did. So I'm really happy that this worked out.
Yeah, me too. Actually, what's funny about the new year is that so at Swoon Spaces, we truly believe that having an organized and tidy home is an often overlooked form of self-care. So I think it fits perfectly into, you know, I need to get fit this year. I need to eat better. I need to take care of my health. I need to, you know, take some me time. This fits in perfectly with that. And then to your point, I mean, the pandemic, we've just been at home so much that I know for me, like looking at an area of my house that's just not the way I want it to be, whether that means organizing or whether that means buying a different piece that's just better. Like I feel like the whole interior design and organization industry has boomed over the last year because people are just prioritizing that more because they're in that space more often. So now is definitely a good time to just get it done. And then, you know, once things start opening up again, it's already handled. So you can, you know, live your life and feel good about it.
And that's why I felt like this was a perfect fit for the show as well, because this show is all about living our fullest lives and doing what we can to learn how we can optimize our performance, optimize our bodies, optimize our minds, and organizing your space is a huge part of that.
Definitely. And I think the only thing to add to that, because of who you are and what you do for a living, I think it's important to like state the things that we do, like our services, just because we break it down pretty well, where if you reached out to us, you would know what you need. So we offered just a declutter session where if you're like, I'm so overwhelmed with my space, I just can't, maybe call us, we'll declutter everything, and you might actually feel a lot better in your space. Like it might just be as simple as that. Then we do a full service declutter, organize, buy product for you, implement it, label everything. And so that's what we do. And then when it comes to moving, and I think this is where you and your audience really come in, is we offer move management, and we can basically insert ourselves in any part of that process, whether it means managing the move, like calling the moving company, coordinating all of the dates and all of the moving parts, or it could be decluttering before you pack, because who wants to pay and move clutter when you can just get rid of it before you even move into this new space. Packing, unpacking, and then I think the biggest value is unpacking into your new home and organizing it from day one. I think that's a huge, it's a huge undertaking for people. Like usually when you move, it takes months to get settled in and finding places for things. And so if you have a team that's dedicated to getting you organized, understanding where, you know, how you live and how everything should function, and getting that done like the first few days of you living in your new apartment, that's huge. And then you just don't have to deal with it ever again, and it's done for you. So that's, I think, in terms of looking for new homes and stuff, I think that's like a huge benefit to what we do and what we can offer to you guys.
Such a good point. That's a really amazing point.
It's just important, and I think a lot of people don't even realize that kind of service exists.
Such a good point. Thank you so much, Natalie. It was amazing and so valuable to have you on, and I'm sure our audience really appreciates it. I recommend everyone in our audience reach out to Natalie directly. So thank you so much, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun chatting with you.
Thanks. Guys, I know you get so much out of these episodes, so do I. So I want to encourage you to please remember to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any new content. When you subscribe and like and engage with the content, it helps me to create more of these videos for you. Send me your feedback. Let me know what else you'd like for me to talk about. and I'll find an expert that matches that request. You'll find all my contact info in the description here. Before you head out, like the video or subscribe to the podcast. Be sure that you're following me on all of my channels, including Instagram. My handle is Christina.Kremidas. Don't miss my weekly giveaways on Instagram. And you can always email me personally. My email address is Christina.Kremidas@element.com. I respond to all of my emails, so feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you guys so much, and stay tuned for episode 5, where we will be speaking with Susan Winter, a relationship expert based in New York. That is going to be another amazing episode, so subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks guys, and see you then.